Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to Fantasy Football Today, DFS. It's Meg, it's Mike, it's Sia, and it's live. Ladies and gentlemen, Fantasy Football Today, DFS will be with you live every Thursday at 11 o'clock as opposed to pre-recorded. Very excited about that and very excited that we already have people in our live chat as hopefully, Meg, people are starting to hear, okay, this is live. I can jump into chat. I can ask questions. I can give out my own plays. How you feeling, Meg?
I'm feeling great. As I mentioned on the early edge this morning, this is the last week of best ball regular season going into best ball playoffs. So we'll try not to mention that too much, but have a lot of best ball influence rooting interest this week and hopefully the next 3 weeks. So I'm really excited for this week, and excited the show is live to interact with people and questions and everything.
Brad Miller, he says, listening on the snow-covered streets of Concord, New Hampshire, as I'm delivering the mail. Love to hear that, Brad. And Jake Vinegar, thank you for being in here. Everybody, if you can, if you're not delivering mail, hit the like button. Mike, we've got an 11-game slate, 8 games in the 1 o'clock window, 3 games in the 4 o'clock window. I do want to give a shout out to our Week 13 top 5. I didn't have a very good Week 13, but JJ Gosh certainly did because he took down our contest, which, by the way, the Week 14 contest is live. You'll see in the chat, you'll see the link for it, but of course, you'll always see it in the YouTube and podcast descriptions on Apple and Spotify. Second place was Cubs fan. Third place was K Fowler. A-Train Boston took 4th place in our contest, and M. Tarzia took 5th place. Mike, 11-game slate. Your initial impressions when you looked at this 11-game slate, what did you think?
I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of good spots. Like Meg, also have some best ball rooting interests here that we'll talk about a little bit, and some guys in good spots that could certainly win or lose those final advancement spots for you. But overall, I like it. I think you've got some interesting games. You obviously got one huge total, but that one huge total could have some extreme variance in the form of weather in Orchard Park, where it's Bengals and Bills. You see the indoor game, Seahawks Falcons, with a total of just 44.5. But a lot of the big players are on this slate. You've got JSN, you've got Puka Nacua, you've got Devon Achane, you've got Jamar Chase, you've got Bijan Robinson, you've got Jonathan Taylor, you've got a high spend at tight end and Trey McBride. Just a lot of big names and a lot of big salaries here. So I think you can't have all of them this week like you could have in a couple other weeks. So you're definitely going to have to make some strong stands on who you're going to play, who you're not.
I'm going to make a strong stand that Matt is one of the best producers over at CBS Sports, but also that Josh Mullenix is, because he's in the chat as well. Of course, Josh works on all kinds of different shows, including some of the golf shows we do here at Sportsline and CBS Sports. So shout out to Josh. Shout out to Robert Lamont in the chat who says Bucky Irving is going to smash this week. We will get to Bucky Irving. But first, Meg, we're going to get to the Colts Jaguars. So this is a game that I thought I was going to have a little bit more interest in. But now I'm looking at the weather, and again, it's Thursday, so we'll see how the weather actually plays out. But if you're watching this show right now, you see the game day forecast, 66 degrees in Jacksonville. Well, that seems great. But periods of heavy rain, 30% chance of thunderstorms. We've got Matt with the graphics here. It's looking very good. But Meg, maybe not looking great for this game in terms of the game environment. Again, this is a relatively high total, 47.5. I see Trevor Lawrence, who, objectively, I think is a pretty below average quarterback, to put it nicely, but he's only 5,400. And I think you can get this Colts defense. Jonathan Taylor on the other side is 9,300. I'm not super interested in playing him at that price against this Jags defense. And then, of course, we can get into the position players, or I should say skill position players. Do you like anything in this game, Meg?
Actually, what I like the best is both tight ends. I don't mind, Trevor Lawrence's price, as you mentioned, just 5,400. But both tight ends in this match have a great matchup, respectively. So Tyler Warren and Evan Ingram, I like both tight ends. Is actually my favorite. I'm really hoping Jonathan Taylor goes off. You would do good. I just checked ownership. It's looking like he's going to be relatively lower owned, more like 12%, obviously because of his price point. So he definitely is in my pool, because if I can fit him, I may want to do builds, and maybe it's like a skinny build with Jonathan Taylor and just bringing back like a Brenton Strange or something along those lines. But mainly it's the two tight ends I'm interested in most. I also, if the rain is on Sunday not looking like it's going to be a factor, I don't mind like an Alec Pierce or Michael Pittman if it just naturally fits in the lineup. They're in my pool, but I would say the tight ends first, then Jonathan Taylor if I want to maybe get a little ownership leverage, and then I do still have Pittman and Pierce in my pool as well.
Pittman only 5,400, Alec Pierce 5,100, Tyler Warren a flat 5K. Mike, we again, it's Thursday, so we don't know if it's actually going to rain on Sunday, but that's certainly what it's looking like, and we're looking at potential heavy rain in Jacksonville. Can you just generally assess how you look at, and again, a lot of times you want to look at the total to see if the total is affected, and that's when you might want to bounce away from a game. But we are going to talk about that Bengals game, which we're expecting snow there. We're expecting rain here. How do you treat rain and snow when you're looking at DFS or totals in general?
Yeah, so heavy rain, I think, can hurt the offense quite a bit and help defense. Medium to light snow, I think, helps the offense quite a bit. I think that the offense, where it comes from is in the snow that's like, not extreme snow, not like couple inches on the field, but like lighter snow, medium snow, it's more difficult to generate pass rush generally. So it's kind of advantage offense there. Heavy rain, I think advantage defense. And the ball is obviously very slippery and wet. That can be a problem in those scenarios. So as far as this game, definitely want to wait and see how heavy of rain we're potentially talking. And then with that rain, are we talking just rain or thunderstorms? We've seen the Jags notorious for having in-game delays as well at the stadium. So it's possible that while the heavy rain's coming, there may be lightning in the area and you actually may avoid a lot of that heavy rain in this game. So something to monitor there. Jonathan Taylor, I need him in best ball. I think he's going to have a big game. I think it's still going to be hard to pay off the $9,300 price tag on this particular slate. So probably not going to get there. Like Meg, it would be the two tight ends. Brenton Strange, like him quite a bit. You could play him with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is like fringe playable for me at quarterback this week. Tyler Warren is someone I want to talk about a little bit. I think that he's a great play this week. I don't think he's quite expensive enough. He got in the end zone late last week and kind of somewhat paid off the price tag. I would note, though, that last week he was highly questionable to even play. In that game, he was sick. He had a meaningful illness the morning of the game, and you could kind of see it in the body language early. I think that he'll be fine in this spot, so I like him for a little better performance again this week.
Okay, I think we can move forward. I think the one thing about Jonathan Taylor that I'm not super in love with, other than the price point, Meg, everything you pointed out, is that with Daniel Jones not being quite as dynamic, particularly, I mean, he's taken a step back. Part of that is injury related, obviously. With him being not quite as dynamic, obviously you add in the potential rain and stuff too. I just don't think Jonathan Taylor is going to be the play for me, unless, Meg, like you said, his ownership, we were talking about a pre-show, isn't super high, but it's not like it's extremely low either, where we're getting like a ton of leverage by playing Jonathan Taylor. So I'm probably going to be out on Jonathan Taylor. And given the forecast, I might be out on this game. If it clears up at all, I do think Trevor Lawrence, even Trevor Lawrence solo, I know, can't believe you're hearing me say that, but at 5,400, I think is a decent price for a guy that could potentially use his legs, very important game, and now has some receivers he can throw to and really rely on, and notably Jacoby Myers, Brenton Strange back too. Let's move on to the Saints and the Buccaneers. This is another game that may have some rain and may have some weather issues. Again, this time of year, we really have to monitor that type of stuff. Bucs a pretty huge favorite here, 8.5-point favorite, 42.5-point total. And I think this is where the Bucky Irving comment comes from, Mike. He's 7K. He got a lot of run last week, and certainly Sean Tucker took he's second fiddle clearly here. Do you like Bucky Irving in this game, and anybody else you like in this one?
I don't mind Bucky Irving here. I've got him a little less than projected ownership. I'm projecting him around 18%. When I do a big run, I get him about 13. So playable, fine. Not someone that I want to go overweight to the field on personally, but could be fine. I do think that they win the game pretty handily. Other plays in the game that I could maybe get to, if you're looking for a tight end, Juwan Johnson's up to 4K, so it's not like the closer to min salary play. But I liked the volume. At 4K, I could get to him. I would probably play Juwan Johnson in Bucky Irving lineups as a bring back, but everything else I am likely out on in this game.
Robert Lamont. Jawan Johnson is a great play. He says he got 9 targets last week. Meg, do you remember that time I was like, I think I'm going to play some Taysom Hill? So I hope
tried
everybody.
it too. I tried the Taysom Hill experience
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I mean, he was 2,700. I was like
2,700. Exactly.
I was like, let me take a shot. You never know. And now we know. So that didn't work out. Now, Devon Vele, the chat is talking about him as well, Meg. When you're talking about low-end receivers, I shouldn't say low-end, inexpensive receivers, Adonai Mitchell's certainly going to come up. We'll talk about him later. I don't know if we have any others in our back pocket, but Devon Vele certainly flashed last week. Obviously, Chris Olave, 6,500. You're looking at a negative game script. I get all the pass-catching stuff. Are you interested in anybody on the Saints side? And then you can talk to me about Bucky or anybody else on the Bucs side.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get so much on the Saints side. On the Bucs side, I'm pretty much lockstep with Mike that it's not like I'm trying to jam Bucky in every lineup, but he's in my player pool and definitely a play I'm considering. So I like that. I am open to a Baker stack. Obviously, we are still waiting for news. I mean, so are we thinking Mike Evans still sits out another week, right? I mean, I guess that's still a question mark. It's obviously he's back to a limited practice.
Yeah, Mike, do you have a take on that? I'm not expecting Evans this week, but I'm not 100% sure about that myself.
Yeah, I don't know that he gets back out there this week. I would assume that he returns in week 15.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too. So if Evans is out and it's just Godwin and Ibuka, I'm open to a Baker stack, but it's not a priority. I'm likely going to go elsewhere, both on my stack and receivers. So mainly Bucky Irving in this one, but open. Do have Baker and Ibuka in my player pool.
Mike, if Mike Evans is out, Chris Godwin's only 5,300. I know this isn't necessarily the game script where we're going to be passing it a lot if you're the Bucs, but they still have over a 25-point implied total. Godwin starting, like you could make the argument that Godwin's starting to just get more and more looks as he's getting more healthy and more like integrated into the offense. Would you consider Godwin at 5,300?
He didn't show up a lot for me where I'm at currently. I get it. I get the interest. I just think that the offense is all of a sudden going to be extremely crowded when you've got him in there. You've got Ibuka, you've got Bucky Irving back. You're playing an opponent that you should be able to beat at home. So I don't dislike it, but certainly is not like obvious must be in my player pool at this point. So I'll probably be out on Godwin.
And finally, before we move on, I have to point this out, Meg. We brought up last week, and I should have leaned into it more. We really just brought it up. The Tyrod Taylor, you know, we've been talking about Adonai Mitchell for 3 weeks. I had the prop on him on Sportsline 2 weeks ago. Like we even 3 weeks ago, I think I had that, but we didn't really lean into that. But when I see Tyler Shoup at 4,600, which was a similar price to Tyrod Taylor last week, any thoughts on playing? I mean, probably not, right? You're not in on the 4,600 Tyler Shoup.
I'm not in on it on the 4,600 Tyler Shoup, but again, I wasn't in on Tyrod Taylor last week. Yeah. Now, last week though was a very low scoring week. So if there are certain games, and we'll get to obviously Buffalo, Cincinnati, or if there are certain games that really pop off, there was because there are so many good teams, good games on Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and prime time. The Sunday slate was incredibly low scoring. So you didn't have a high bar to clear to be QB1 or even in the top 5 QBs, which is why Tyrod Taylor and some lower price quarterbacks really hit. I personally don't see that this week. So that's just kind of a nature of the slate situation that maybe I should have considered cheaper quarterbacks last week for that reason, but I'm not really considering cheaper quarterbacks that week for the reason I think there are going to be some higher scoring games.
Well, I guess that means you're not considering, I'm going to say this, we're going to the next game, Mike. $4,700 quarterback, just like Tyrod last week. I mean, honestly, I'm being loose with the term quarterback at this point. JJ McCarthy, Mike McClure, is 4,700 at home, by the way, against the Washington defense, which I understand the spirited efforts from Washington, a big time respect for this team and how this team is run, but it is the Washington defense at the end of the day. Mike, is there any thought to playing JJ McCarthy and pairing him with, Justin Jefferson, who's sub 7K?
I am getting a little bit of it. I would call him $4,700 athlete JJ McCarthy, who will be taking snaps. It's an interesting spot. If there were a spot for him to play well, it would be this one coming off some rest at home against Washington. Like, if he's not going to have a decent game the rest of the season, if he's going to have a game in the rest of the season, it's going to be this one, in my opinion. The ownership is nice, single digits and only 4,700. I'll tell you the scenario that I am playing him. I would probably have 3 wide receivers in the lineup of Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, and JSN. Would all 3 be in my lineup? And you're just looking for big performances, and hopefully JJ has a big game and can kind of carry McCarthy along. But it really would be a salary relief situation more than anything.
Meg, so here's the thing. What Mike said about, well, if there was a time for JJ to do, whatever, do well, it would be this game. So that's exactly what I said. What was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago when he played the Bears? Mm-hmm. And that definitely did not work out. However, the Bears defense is like at least decent. And I don't know what we want to say about the Washington defense, but there's certainly with it, having a couple of weeks off or a week off, this is certainly another bite at the apple against the bad defense at home. Like, again, if you can't succeed in this game, I mean, good luck the rest of your career. Like how many bites do you get before everybody, including all the players on the team, say, "Hey, coach, we might need to look for somebody like right now." Any thought on playing? You just say you didn't want to play the inexpensive quarterback, so I'm assuming you don't want to play JJ McCarthy or Justin Jefferson.
No, I don't. But again, I agree with you guys that if there were a spot, kind of like, again, you said 2 weeks ago, this would be it at home against the Washington defense coming off rest. So I very much agree with you guys that this would be the spot for him to get there. But we have like Mike said, we're looking at like an athlete, not a quarterback. It looks so bad that it's hard. And again, if you're having a bigger lineup portfolio with limited lineups, I can't stomach it. I can't do it. But I will say I do get the case for it. But I don't think I'll be getting there.
Meg, on the other side, our Washington Commanders have some value if you want to dabble there. So I don't know if Jaden Daniels is playing, but I don't think he is. So Marcus Mariota is $5K. I'm not really interested in playing him against Brian Flores. I don't know that I'm interested in Chris Rodriguez at 4,700. I don't know how successful he's going to be. I do think he's a good running back, but Jeremy McNichols gets some of those carries as well and some of that work as well. I think he's an interesting, like, super contrarian low-end candidate. By the way, Jeremy McNichols at 4,200, especially if you think Washington's going to be trailing. But Terry McLaurin's 5,200. Zach Ertz 4,500. Anybody on the Washington side you're considering, or this is a low total, it's a relatively low implied total for Washington at 20. Are you just moving on from this game?
No, I do have some interest in Terry McLaurin because we saw just even on limited snaps what he does for the Washington offense, right? Mm-hmm. So we saw it in a very difficult matchup on Sunday night. So I am interested in Terry McLaurin here at that price. I think he's coming in with some ownership, but certainly not chalky. So I do like Terry McLaurin. I like that price point, hoping he gets even more routes this week. And we saw whether it is Jaden Daniels back or likely Marcus Mariota, I think the offense just hums and operates a lot better with Terry McLaurin. And so he is definitely one of my favorite, mid-priced receivers. And then I will say I do have Chris Rodriguez in my pool, and it probably more for like a 1 p.m. only, really trying to find some value in a 3 running back build, something along those lines, because I do think there's too much opportunity cost if you were only doing 2 running backs. So more very situational. Like I said, 1 p.m. only. If I'm doing 3 running backs, I do have Chris Rodriguez in the pool just because he's so cheap and getting the run around the goal line. So it's really Terry. And I will say on the Vikings side, the one other piece I did have is
Jordan
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson.
Well, yeah, if Aaron Jones is out, I know that he did get limited practice, so it looks like he's going to play. But if Aaron Jones were to be ruled out for some reason, then I'd have interest in Jordan Mason. Hawkinson is so cheap, and our linebackers meaning the Washington linebackers are so slow and old. So I do, I do have some interest in Hawkinson just for like a cheap tight end that could take advantage of, a good situation of a matchup.
Yeah, I mean, even against, Bobby Wagner coverage, Hawkinson is limited, but he's only 3,300. So, yeah, and if you're JJ McCarthy, you better be leaning into a big target in the middle that probably will be loose here and there on passing play. So I like that look as well. We're going to move on to another interesting one. I mean, Does anybody want to play Lamar Jackson anymore? He's only 6,700. I'm just asking. And Meg and Mike are going to answer that question right after this message from our partners.
This isn't just combat. It's cinema.
Ready or not, here I come. Let's go! Are you not entertained?
The new home of UFC, Paramount Plus.
We're back on Fantasy Football Today, DFS. We're going to move to Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Before we do, though, if you're watching, we've got some people watching us on YouTube. A lot of people sort of just realizing this show is back live. But if you're watching us on Twitter or any other social media platform where this is being broadcast, if you jump over to the Fantasy Football Today YouTube channel, you can watch us there as well and get involved in the chat, make comments, ask questions about this slate, whatever you want to do. Join us on the Fantasy Football Today YouTube channel. Let's go to Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Mike, I'll start with you here. I left before the break asking about Lamar Jackson. He obviously doesn't look right. I don't think we need to get into that too much, but he is only 6,700. He's at home. Steelers defense kind of gettable. I don't know that we have the same weather issues. It looks like the weather's going to be just fine in the 40s. I feel like, Lamar to Zay or just a Lamar solo. I don't hate it. What say you on that Lamar side?
Yeah, I certainly won't be like in my top 5, won't be a core lineup, anything like that. When I play a lineup set of 20 plus, Lamar would be in there. And how I would play him would be a double stack with Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. That's how I would play it personally. As far as getting to Lamar overall, though, I don't he's not going to be popular. I think it'll be 5% owned. I think it's worth a shot. These are games that they really kind of have to win. Having said all that, I'm not super excited about it, but if I did play him, it would be again a double stack with Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews.
Meg, thoughts here? I'm the one that was building Lamar Jackson up some time ago, and it certainly didn't really work out. I was talking more from a betting standpoint, but listen, these are must-win games for both of these teams, and you can make the argument that, and I think we talked about this on Friday, Lamar did have, he's been having bad games. He also threw a touchdown pass to Zay Flowers that was where we saw OPI that doesn't get called 95% of the time. We also saw Isaiah Likely basically just fumble through the end zone. It was good defense, but that should have been another touchdown pass for Lamar Jackson. There is a world where we're coming into this week saying, hey, Lamar Jackson threw for 3 touchdown passes and they won a close one or they rolled or whatever the case may be against the Cincinnati Bengals. And we wouldn't be saying, hey, Lamar is back, but we'd be saying, I don't know, Lamar at 6,700 at home. That doesn't seem bad.
Yeah, no, I get the case for that. It's more for me, I kind of like the Derrick Henry side of this in that we saw what James Cook did to the Steeler defense last week. Honestly, plenty of running backs have done to the Steeler defense. So I'm more on that side. We also see that these AFC North battles, particularly Steelers Ravens, tend to be kind of just a slugfest. So I feel it's a low total. I kind of see it going under. And that's kind of how I'm playing it, that I have really interest in just Derrick Henry. I don't see a big game for Lamar, even getting the case for it, that this is where he, both teams need this game very badly in this AFC North divisional matchup. So for me, I'm not playing Lamar. I do have Derrick Henry in my pool as far as the Ravens side.
I may play Lamar. I get the Lamar, Zay, Mark Andrews thing, and we'll move on to Dolphins Jets in a second. I might play Lamar with Isaiah Likely and just hope I get the split. I hope the splits with Likely and Andrews are somewhat decent, and he's only 3,100, and that brings that stack. The price of that stack is so low at that point because I am stacking him with Likely. It's going to allow me to get James Cook, Achane, perhaps Jamar Chase, players like that. I think that might be the direction I go for this game, and I'm not running it back with anybody. Meg, I'm just going to go to you on this one. Is there anybody on the Steelers side you'd consider this week?
I don't see. I wish it was one tight end, right? But it's not.
Right.
So I say that every week. If it was one tight end, it would be the Steelers tight end. But no, I don't see myself getting to anywhere on the Steelers side. And I just think this is going to be a Steelers Ravens slugfest. And so for me, it's probably just Derrick Henry.
All right, let's go to the Dolphins and the Jets. Pretty low total here. Dolphins favored by 2.5. I think it might even be 3 in some places. No, I think it's 2.5 pretty much everywhere. At New York, 41.5 point total. Last week, Meg, it was the Tyrod Taylor show. I mean, it didn't really start off that way, but he hit some long shots, to Adonai and company sort of later in the game. But Tyrod's only 4,900, Adonai Mitchell's 4,600, John Mechie 4,500. I think those are decent prices on those guys. Brees Hall 6,500, and then on the other side, Achane at 8,800. I don't see myself getting away from Achane. I'm going to try to get Achane and James Cook into a lot of lineups. We'll talk about James Cook later. What do you like in this game, Meg?
Very similar. I'm going to try to get James Cook and Achane in a lot of my lineups. So love Achane. I don't think I'm going to either really passing game side, other than I do have both Adonai Mitchell and Mechie in my player pool, because while their price came up, obviously, after last week, I still think they're very reasonably priced. And so they're, if you're looking for a little salary savings, whether it's the full slate or 1 p.m. only, I do like both of those receivers, cheaper receivers are in my pool.
Mike, what do you like in this game?
A little bit. I like Adonai Mitchell. Shout out to him. Really, really cashed nicely for me last week with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go back there. I like the targets. I think they're repeatable. I think they're likely to be pretty sticky. I think they like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Achane, I think he's finally going to see reduced ownership. I'm thinking 15% range, maybe up to 20. I'm going to try to basically play him at the field. I'm not going to take a stance overweight or underweight. Last week I was 100%, had him in every lineup. I'm not going to be taking a strong stance. I'm going to be kind of matching the field on Achane this week. As far as anyone else, I'm not going to be super optimistic on Miami. It's a team that when they play outdoors in the cold, I don't know that I have a ton of interest in backing them. I think that projects in this kind of spot as evident. I know they're favored on the road, but it's a 41.5 point total. So Achane would be the one piece I could get to on Miami, but again, not strong stance, just kind of match in the field. And then Mitchell on the other side, playable. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for me on this game.
Go ahead, Meg.
One other tight end I'll mention is Darren Waller. I have him in my pool. Do I think I'll get to him much? Probably not, but he is in my pool to consider here.
And Mike, real quick, in or out on Jalen Waddle at 6,800 and Brees Hall at 6,500?
I forgot to mention Brees. Brees, I'm definitely still going to be in on. So yes, in on Brees, out on Waddle, out on the Dolphins passing game.
Tua was really bad in week 13. I mean, it was very clear that Mike McDaniel and company were hiding Tua because every time he passed the ball, it was like a disaster. So you put him out in the cold. I mean, it's not like a formidable defense or anything, but I mean, remember my stack last week was Tua to Achane. So the Achane side of that was great, but the Tua side just like killed my lineups. And also, there were a couple other plays I missed on. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, just be cautious with Achane in the passing game. He actually did not have a catch in the last game. He got there all because he had 134 rushing yards and a touchdown. Just one target in the passing game last week as they were hiding Tua. I think that they'll be hiding Tua again in this game in the cold. So be a little cautious, in my opinion, on Achane. If you look back to when these two teams played the first time, Achane, I believe he had one catch for 2 yards in that game. Only 2 targets in that game.
So Aaron Glenn scheming those targets away from Achane and, making Tua go somewhere else with it. I mean, that's what I'm just Captain Obvious over here, but that is very unusual. So, and obviously maybe that's what they did last week against Miami as well. Interesting footnote. I'm still going to play Achane, but that is really interesting. Maybe I'll play, to your point, Mike, maybe I'll be more towards the field as opposed to being, normally I'd be 60 to 70% on a running back I really like. So let's move on to the next game. Good game environment in terms of being in a dome. Falcons hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Falcons only implied for about 19 points here, whereas Seattle implied for 26. Mike, talk to me about this game. I mean, JSN is 9K, obviously finally had a flat spot last week, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen this week. Kenneth Walker, I remain interested in him. He was 5,300 last week. I liked him. I wish I paired him with Seattle's defense, but I didn't. He's 5,600 this week. Talk to me about the Seattle side. Do you like anything?
Yeah, I do. I like Seattle a lot here. I like both sides quite a bit, to be honest with you. But I like Sam Darnold. I like JSN. I think it's a massive bounce back opportunity for both. Look, they didn't have to do a whole lot in that previous game, so that completely erased the last game or the box score for JSN. He's going to be completely fine here. Love the fact that it's indoors in Atlanta, other big receivers out on the field. So I think this is a great spot for Darnold to JSN. On the other side, I like Bijan in this game quite a bit. I think he's going to be heavily involved in both aspects, the run and the pass game. I will be playing Bijan over Achane this week.
Rank the following running backs. And this, I'm going to give you what the combo prop is for the highest, from highest to lowest. James Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Achane, and Bijan Robinson. Those are, just so you know, from a prop standpoint, those are the 4 highest from a combination rushing and receiving standpoint. So Mike, James Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Achane, and Bijan.
I've got Bijan 1, Jonathan Taylor okay, let's back up. Do you want me to rank them in my likelihood to play them or my just raw fantasy points?
No, likelihood to play them.
Likelihood to play them. Okay, James Cook number 1, Bijan Robinson number 2, Devon Achane 3, Jonathan Taylor 4, but probably not going to play a lot of Achane, not going to play any Taylor. The guy that I'll be playing that moves up ahead of those guys in terms of likelihood to play, we haven't talked about him yet, but it will be Josh Jacobs.
Okay, so that's funny because, again, if we're looking at combo props, he's actually next on the list. So we're looking at, just so everybody knows, JT, and not all books have the combo props out yet, but JT is in that 117 to 120 range. Or excuse me, James Cook is in that 117 to 120 range. JT, again, rushing and receiving, is in that 115 range. Then we go to Achane, also in the 115 range. Bijan, 106. And then Josh Jacobs, there's a bit of a drop to 97 from there. Meg, rank those 4 for me. Cook, Achane, Taylor, and Bijan in terms of your likelihood to play them in your lineups.
Yeah, likelihood to play for me is James Cook 1, Achane 2, Jonathan Taylor 3, Bijan 4. And I do really like Jacobs and Henry too. So this is just a really tough week to decide. It's embarrassment of riches, a lot of good running back options here that are also high priced.
Meg, is there anybody else to consider? We talked about JSN. I don't know, AJ Barner. I don't know, Mike, if you mentioned him at 3,200. We got Kenneth Walker at 5,600. But on the Falcons side, other than Bijan, we have Kirk Cousins still here at quarterback. We're not 100% sure about what's going on with Drake London. I feel like I'm going to be out either way, whether he's playing or not. Anything on the Falcons side that you like other than Bijan?
Other than Bijan, I'm out on the Falcons side. Agree with Mike that this is a great bounce back spot for JSN, and it's still having interest in Kenneth Walker in my running back pool.
Yeah, Mike, in or out on Kenneth Walker? It doesn't sound like you're in on him, but would you be playing him in any of your lineups potentially?
I wouldn't necessarily pull him out if he made a lineup, but I probably wouldn't be jamming him in intentionally. There's another running back in the Cleveland, Tennessee game that I would rather play in a somewhat similar price range. So yeah, I'm neutral on Walker. Probably he's in the player pool still.
All right. Well, let's talk about Quinshon Judkins, but Meg, go ahead first.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question? So I always struggle with this every year, the West Coast to East Coast 1:00 games. And we saw it earlier this season with the Chargers kind of laying an egg at MetLife against the Giants. We saw it last week with the Rams and the Panthers. Rams also, and it was a rainy game, had a lower scoring game against the Ravens earlier this season. Do you weight that much in your, obviously, handicapping of the game, but then DFS considerations? Because, it was a reminder for me last week that, not that that's gospel for me, but that I do consider that with these West to East Coast 1 p.m. spots.
Yeah, I mean, Rams Carolina seems like pretty good evidence of that. Mike, what's your response to that?
Yeah, it definitely matters. Especially for some of those teams. Now, I would say it matters more when you're like also maybe changing your baseline. And what I mean by that would be like the Rams going from indoor perfect conditions, as their home baseline, playing that early morning game for them on the body clock outdoors, that can matter a lot more, I think. A team like Seattle going here, getting to play indoors in perfect conditions, I'm a little less worried about it, but certainly still of note.
Mhm. Just thought it's a good conversation point, especially this time of year.
I'm really glad you brought it up. I totally agree. And I like the nuanced response because, yeah, I
Mhm.
think the Rams coming to Carolina and having to play outdoor is a slightly different analysis than the Seattle Seahawks, or even if you wanted to put the Rams in place of the Seahawks, just make it the same constant variable there. If it was the Rams going to an indoor environment at 1 o'clock, that's certainly different than the Rams going to an outdoor environment where certainly like where we're heading towards winter and colder conditions. And don't forget in the third quarter, it started to rain in that Rams Carolina
Mhm.
game. And that's when Carolina started to control the line of scrimmage. Like
Mhm.
the Rams defense suddenly couldn't get off the field. I mean, Chuba Hubbard honestly looked like Bijan Robinson in that game in the third quarter. And I say that frustratingly because I had the Rams -10 in that game. And oh, by the way, I doubled down when I was able to get the Rams money line like early fourth quarter. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. And so, that's the NFL for you. All these teams are good on some level, including the Titans and the Browns. Now, Mike, let's go right to Quinshon Judkins because I assume that's the running back. Now, he's 6,400, so that's 800 more than Kenneth Walker. But I assume that's the running back you were talking about in terms of, hey, I'd rather play this guy than KW3.
Yes, Judkins is the guy. I expect him with the quarterback change to also catch a few more passes and be more involved there. So I think you're getting some additional usage. I think they'll still be able to score. I like the fact that they're a favorite. I know that the total is extremely low here. I don't think their offense is scoring 4 touchdowns, but I think when they do score one, it's likely to be Quinshon Judkins in whether it's a long run or in the red zone. So that's a situation that I would like. Another fascinating point I have to bring up. I know we're going off on a tangent, but I like to look at like miles traveled and everything there.
Mhm.
Talk about the Rams, Seahawks, Chargers travel the most miles. The Chargers, number one, 37,000, but we'll use the Rams here. 34,800 miles traveled this year. The Cincinnati Bengals travel 8,000.
Wow.
Just unbelievable discrepancy from the top to the bottom this season in the NFL. You mean the bottom 15 teams are around 18,000 or less. They're over double half the league in terms of how much they have to travel.
That's incredible. Okay, so we like Quinshon Judkins, Meg. I mean, I guess I should point out it's only a 19-point implied total by the Browns and 14.5 from the Titans. I'll mention RJ White, if you're not a member of Sportsline, likes the under on the Titans team total of 14.5. I saw him put that in early in the week. Harold Fannin, 3,700. I can't imagine anybody's taking shots with the pass catchers on either side. Nobody's playing Tony Pollard. So to me, yeah, you might be playing the defenses here, like Cleveland's in particular. But to me, this is Quinshon Judkins and get out. Don't get cute.
Same. Yeah. Defenses, Judkins is in my pool, but with this team total and game environment, that's it. Don't get cute.
All right. Browns favored by 4.5, 33.5 point total. Lowest over under of any game this season. So that tells you all you need to know about playing this game. But again, Quinshon Judkins firmly in the player pool. Let's see. The Browns defense is 3,700. I mean, that's about the same as what we saw with Seattle, and that actually worked out. But that was a slightly different situation.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on to the last 1 o'clock game before we hit the 3, 4 o'clocks, our cheat sheets, and of course, Mike's top 3 at each position. Josh Allen. I mean, this is interesting because we talked about it on the front end. There's going to be snow here, or there's the possibility of snow and or sleet or some sort of precipitation because it's going to be cold, likely in the high 20s, as we see here on the game day forecast, 65% chance of snow. Meg, the total hasn't really been affected here.
Mhm.
And with that in mind, are you still willing to kind of go in on this game environment?
I am, unless we get some kind of weather news from now until Sunday morning that it's deteriorating, looks bad, total's going down, then I'll jump off and pivot. But I am very interested in this game. Obviously means a ton for both teams. We know that both these quarterbacks can kind of go into hero mode, and obviously the total tells us that at 53.5, I think we're going to see points from these two offenses. Obviously the Bengals, one of the worst defenses. Bills can be attacked too. So I absolutely love this game environment overall. I'm hoping the snow doesn't affect it because I really like a lot of spots. I like the Burrow stack from Burrow to Chase. Obviously Higgins, I definitely need him for best ball, so I'm hoping he returns, but he returned to practice. So TBD if he does return. If he does and has limited or lower ownership, I would be interested in Higgins as well. You could also go to Chase Brown in that, whether game stack or a bring back if you're playing more the Buffalo side. I obviously love James Cook, but if you did want to play the Buffalo side and just Josh Allen goes into hero mode, I don't think you need to stack him. But if you did,
Right.
if Kincaid is active, I would play Kincaid. Obviously, we saw it's been like a tight end funnel against the Bengals, and Isaiah Likely was the one that almost got there, but obviously went way over his receiving prop and just, like you said, fumbled the ball out of bounds and did not get the touchdown last week. But I like tight ends against Bengals. So if Kincaid is active, then I have interest in Kincaid. If he's not active, then I have interest in Dawson Knox as a cheap tight end. So on the Buffalo side, it's Josh Allen, James Cook, and one of the tight ends. On the Bengals side, it's Burrow, Chase, but willing to sprinkle in Chase Brown and Higgins if he's active.
Mike, I'd like to know if the weather, if it holds like it looks like it's going to hold, with maybe a chance of snow, or I should say, let's just assume it's going to snow to some degree throughout the game. It doesn't sound like that's going to intimidate you too much, and it doesn't sound like the total's coming down, or doesn't look like the total's coming down at all. With that in mind, I'd like to play a decent amount of Josh Allen and a decent amount of James Cook, not necessarily together. So I know I'm going to have a lot of lineups with Josh Allen, probably not stacked with anybody, with a Jamar Chase run back. And I know I'm going to have a lot of different lineups. And I'm not saying you can't play them together. I'm just saying what I'm thinking of right now. A lot of different lineups with James Cook and not Josh Allen, but Jamar Chase again on the run back, and then calling it a day and going to another game. What say you about this game?
Yeah, I think piece number one is going to clearly be James Cook for me. I think he's going to be heavily involved, both run game and probably the pass game, but I expect him to have success against this Cincinnati defense. As far as stacking it up, like Jamar Chase, you can pencil him in for 20 fantasy points. Like, it's probably the floor. He's going to have 15 targets in this game, if not more. So I think that Chase is definitely playable. As far as how I would play it, like, yeah, I think you could probably play Allen, Cook, and Chase and then kind of get out and play some value elsewhere throughout the slate. I think that's totally fine. Khalil Shakir is in my player pool in the Josh Allen lineups. I would say I have some slight interest in playing the onslaught with Josh Allen, James Cook, Shakir, and Jamar Chase. But as far as getting to Joe Burrow, as much as I like him, I don't know that I'm going to get there. I think I'd rather just isolate his number one receiver in Chase.
Meg, are we considering maybe a contrarian Chase Brown at 6,700? Or, I mean, T. Higgins, it looks like he's tracking to play. We don't know that for sure yet, working off of his concussion, but he's only 6,200. And I'll point out Gesicki, but I don't think anybody's considering guys like that at this point. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, any consideration there, Meg?
Oh, definitely. They're Chase Brown and T. Higgins, if he's active, are definitely in my player pool. You're also probably getting much lower ownership on them than the other players in this game, respectively. Mm-hmm. So especially 1 p.m. only, I am going to do some game slots from each side and kind of try to incorporate some of those lower owned pieces as well. But yeah, I really hope that this game environment does get there in the snow, because I like a lot of pieces in this game from both sides.
Okay. So we like the obvious plays of Josh Allen, James Cook, and Jamar Chase, but also willing to play some of the non-obvious plays. And Mike, it does sound like you're okay with really stacking this up on the Buffalo Bills side.
Yeah, I'm fine stacking it on the Buffalo side. I think there's a scenario where they have to score, 35 to ultimately prevail in the game. And I think it could get spread out, but Cook would be very clearly the top priority. And Allen, like I said, I'm pretty fine playing Josh Allen and James Cook together, and just, outside of one of the other backs getting in, I think you're getting the majority of the points that Buffalo can put up with those two. And I don't think it's likely to hurt you too bad, because I think the scenario where it's like 3 Khalil Shakir touchdowns is pretty unlikely. So
yeah, I think so too.
If you wanted it, I would probably just play Allen and Cook together.
And again, if you're joining us late, when you look at rushing and receiving projections and props per the books, James Cook is leading the pack over Jonathan Taylor, over Achane, over Bijan Robinson. He's going to get a ton of work. We still have more work to do. The 4 o'clock games, only 3 of them. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover our cheat sheets and top 3 at each position right after this message from our partners.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
We're back on fantasy football today, DFS. We go to the 4 o'clock games, Broncos at the Raiders. Not a lot of intrigue for me, Mike, in this game, but there are some interesting names here. Ashton Genty, 6,100 at home, but against the Denver Broncos defense. I know we were talking pre-show about how he's pretty popular from an ownership standpoint, and I guess it's because of his price, because otherwise I don't see a huge argument for him. RJ Harvey, 5,700 on the other side. Bo Nix, 6,100. Brock Bowers, 6K. Mike, I don't have much interest in this game.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of interest here either. I know Ashton Genty's been relatively popular. Probably will be again. But for me, if I had to play something, it would be RJ Harvey at 5,700 or the defense. Otherwise, I think I'm pretty much out here. I know it's a spot that you may typically want to get. Like, it's Denver. You're getting them indoors in great conditions in this spot, a game that they should clearly win, but I think they kind of spread everything out a little too much here in this game.
Meg, I think if I was trying to be super sneaky, I would maybe play some Bo Nix. If I thought the Raiders were going to really push back and it was going to be, but there's just nothing here for me. RJ Harvey, of course, he can break one, but I'm not exactly sure what his rushing attempt share is going to be. And against Washington, he got that touchdown late, but I mean, he wasn't super effective prior to that. I just, again, have no interest. What's your play in this game, if anything?
Very similar. RJ Harvey has not been super efficient, so I don't have a ton of interest there, even though his price point is so low. Maybe 4 p.m. only, I would. But Genty, I want to fade at higher ownership. Don't have a ton of interest on the Raiders side. I could see a case for a Bo Nix stack. I don't think I'm going to get there. I just want to point out we saw a lot more targets to Pat Bryant on Sunday night. Mm-hmm. He is very cheap. He is in my player pool as a very cheap play, but I was, had made a prop bet on Troy Franklin last week because he had been consistent. Trusting Sean Payton is not always a recipe for success. That is very difficult. So while I do have Pat Bryant as one of my favorite value plays because he's so cheap and seems to be getting more targets, it doesn't make me super comfortable. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think we can move on from this game. If you want to play Genty at 6,100 because it makes your lineup work, that's fine. But I'm just completely out on this game. Again, Harvey, I think it feels like a dart, but it's not. I mean, he's the starting running back, but I feel like if you wanted to play that's fine. No interest for me. Bears at the Packers. Packers have a 25.5 point implied total. This is a 6.5 point spread. Packers favored by 6.5 at home. Seems like a lot. Either way, Josh Jacobs is a running back. You mentioned, Mike. He's 6,800. You're playing him.
Yeah, I'm playing him. I like the spot. This is, it's not going to be like snowy Green Bay, but it's classic Green Bay in December here. Like we're talking very cold temperatures, wind chills at 0. It's going to be cold, classic Packers spot. I think they're going to run the football a lot with Jacobs. We didn't see it a ton with Philly having a lot of success on the ground against Chicago. I still think Chicago is extremely vulnerable on the ground, and I think that Jacobs is going to get there through volume. But I also like Jordan Love because I think that ground game is going to be effective, and it's going to open up those play action passing opportunities. And he's got a pretty healthy receiver core right now. So I like Love. I like the Packers side. I think the Bears and Caleb, they play hard enough. They've got enough upside to really push. So I think this is a big Green Bay spot, though. I like a lot of Green Bay. I like Christian Watson. I like Love. I like Jacobs. And then for the Bears side, I would bring it back with Colson Loveland here.
Interesting. Loveland only 3,200. Speaking of tight end, Wheels Up in the chat says that he loves Bowers at a flat 5K. I mean, I'm never going to say I don't love or I don't like Brock Bowers of all people, because he probably will be the number one target. And he's only 5K. He's not like super expensive. So I totally get that. I'll probably be out on Bowers with some of the value that we've talked about in the show, but I'm not going to argue with playing Bowers. Meg, do you like Loveland? Do you like anybody on this Bears side? And are you in on Josh Jacobs?
It's tough. It's such a tough defensive matchup for the Bears. I wish I could go back to the running game, because we saw the success they had on Black Friday against the Eagles, who are a very good defense. But especially with Monangai not practicing, I don't know that I'll get to much on the Bears side in a tough matchup. Like Mike, I'm very much more interested on the Packers side, I should say. Same interest that he has. It's Love, it's Watson, it's Jacobs. Just the way we're building, we talked about all those high price running backs. That leads me to like a lot, outside of Jamar Chase, a lot of these mid-price receivers like Watson. I mentioned Terry McLaurin. I mentioned the Indy receivers if you needed to go there. So I feel like I'm going to play some of these mid-price receivers, and Watson is probably one of my favorite.
Yeah, Watson at 5,200 has certainly the requisite upside. I'll point out Dontavian Wicks certainly flashed last week. I think his upside is really what we saw last week. I don't expect that from Dontavian Wicks, but he's only 3,900. Mike, any of these, you might have mentioned Watson, but Dontavian Wicks, anybody like that, or Luther Burden on your radar? Or is it just Colston Loveland in terms of the cheap guys?
Mostly Loveland in terms of the cheap guys. I love Watson. I'll be pairing him with Jordan Love. But mostly going to be just Love, Watson, Jacobs, Loveland on the other side. Let's see. Other players in the game, I don't think I'm getting anywhere else. Doesn't look like it. No. Packers defense is interesting at 3,100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll note that we have it on here. Kyle Monangai didn't practice Wednesday. We'll see about Thursday. I mean, that some of that news is breaking right now as we're doing this live show. But Roma Dunze didn't practice with a foot issue. I don't know what's going on with Roma Dunze, but he's 5,700. I don't think anybody's playing him at this point. But maybe that, this game environment, not great. It's only a 19-point implied total for the Bears. They like to run the ball. But DJ Moore only 4,800, Luther Burden 3,800. I guess guys to consider if you're throwing darts. No darts that we need to throw for Rams Cardinals, because Meg, this is a high total. Well, it's not super high. It's 47.5 point total. We got a dome environment. I mean, this looks like a great environment for one of these 4:00 games. Stafford 6,900, Puka 8,700, Devontae 7,700. The other side of the ball, we got Jacoby Brissett. We got Marvin Harrison, maybe. We'll have to wait and see on him. Michael Wilson's 5,600. Trey McBride is 8K, which is crazy. Are you playing anybody in this game, Meg?
I think you could do quarterback stacks from either side. Brissett has been throwing a ton, so you could do, a Brissett McBride. You could do a Stafford. I like Devontae better than Puka here, just because of the savings and honestly the red zone share that he gets. So, but really for me, what I'll ultimately probably do on the main slate is Devontae Adams is just going to be my priority piece. I like other quarterback stacks more. And, McBride is just such a high cost. So it's probably going to be Devontae Adams, because I'm seeing him come at very low ownership if I were to have another kind of higher priced receiver. I talked about how I like the mid-tier a lot, but if I were to do another higher priced receiver, it would be Adams, looking to be a little more contrarian.
Mike, are people getting to these stacks? Because I feel like we're talking about a lot of other games, but I like this game environment. And if Marvin Harrison is out, I've found my run back with Michael Wilson. I'm not going to play 8K Trey McBride personally. Is a Stafford Devontae or a Stafford Puka stack with a Michael Wilson run back, do you think that's popular at all?
I don't think it'll be super unpopular. I think it'll definitely get played. I'm for one, I'm going here for sure. I like the Stafford stacks a lot. Returning to the West Coast in a dome, that's very appealing to me with the offense, the way they run it. I think Puka will still get some ownership, although he could get squeezed. We'll see what the field looks like they're doing. There are a lot of choices, right? So I think that one thing you'll need or want is for the snow to be calm in Buffalo, and have Jamar Chase kind of get played a lot would definitely help bring Puka's ownership down a little bit. But yeah, having top options, at running back and receiver, JSN, Chase, Puka, and then all those expensive running backs, There'll be some movement by Sunday by the time everything kicks off. But as of now, I do think Puka's probably still going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, I'm thinking if people are going to jam in, even if they skip out on Achane, which I think a lot of people will still play him, but like James Cook, Jamar Chase, you can't. It's hard when you're fitting those guys in. Maybe you throw in Bijan or Jason, whatever you decide to do. It's hard to fit in a Stafford Nakua stack of all stacks. I think on the 4 o'clock slate, I like the Stafford double stack for sure. But
Yeah.
Mike or Meg, I should ask. I mean, nobody's playing. Like I just like Devontae. Like this is like almost a Lamar Jackson situation where I feel like people are just going to play Stafford and Devontae because of the savings. I think Stafford to Nakua just makes so much sense because this is such a good game environment. We don't have a lot of good game environments this week.
No, we don't. I'm seeing that Puka looks to be, like Mike said, it should be pretty high owned, and Devontae looks like, so that's why I wanted to approach it that way if I did a Stafford stack. But I mean, especially on 4 p.m. only, you could do a Stafford double stack. That would be expensive, but obviously it's much less games to just a 3-game slate on the 4 p.m. only. But yeah, for me, I'm prioritizing Devontae Adams, but I totally get the Stafford stack. I think this is a really good bounce back spot for him, like Mike said, in a dome back on the West Coast.
Mike, you said you like the stack. Do you like any run backs from Arizona?
I don't think I'm going to run it back this week. Looking through everything, it looks, if I did, Michael Wilson would be number 1 option for me. We'll see on Marv. Probably not going to play Marv. So it would be Wilson, and that's it.
Okay. If Marvin Harrison doesn't play, maybe you take a look at Greg Dortch at 4,300. Maybe he gets a couple more looks, but I'll probably run it back with Michael Wilson on these stacks. All right. I think it's time. To get to our cheat sheets and our top 3 at each position. Meg, I'm going to let you kick things off with your favorite stack, chalk buy, chalk fade, contrarian, and value play.
Sure. And first of all, I have to say that I absolutely loved your chalk buy and chalk fade. So I'm differentiating, but I'm in lockstep with you there. But my top stack is going to be Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. I was impressed with Burrow's first game back on the road. So I like him. Every game is a playoff game for them. So I like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, willing to mix in Higgins too, if he is a go. Chalk buy is Devon Achane for me. And chalk fade is going to be Ashton Genty. I'm definitely not interested against the Denver defense at high ownership. Contrarian play for me, we just talked about it. Devontae Adams looks to be pretty low owned and just an insane red zone target share. And value play, again, I kind of talked about this, how it makes me a little nervous, but Pat Bryant is really, really cheap, and he might be just a salary saver option, but I say it with a little bit of cautiousness because it's very, very hard to trust Sean Payton from week to week.
All right. I'm going to go with one of these is going to look like I'm kind of speaking out of both sides of my mouth, because my chalk fade, I'll start there, as Puka. And I don't know if you heard my tone when I was talking about the Rams game, but I was almost like trying to convince myself, because Puka Nakua is not really on my radar. We'll see where ownership ends up. It's not like he's going to be super low owned or anything. So that's why, I put him in the chalk category. I have him as my chalk fade because I just didn't think I would get there, but I have a feeling that's what a lot of other people are going to do. So I feel like, I'm kind of going back and forth on my chalk fade. So maybe take that one with a grain of salt. My favorite stack is Josh Allen solo. So it's really not a stack, but you can pair him with Dalton Kincaid. You can also pair him with James Cook, who's my chalk buy. I'm going to have them separate. So even though Josh Allen even though James Cook is my favorite chalk buy, when I play James Cook, I'm probably not playing him much with Josh Allen. So I just wanted to point that out. Different lineups are going to have Josh Allen. Different lineups are going to have James Cook for me. My contrarian play is going to be Lamar Jackson. I don't usually have a quarterback in this position, but I didn't want to put Lamar as my favorite stack. But I think Lamar is a really interesting play this week in a potential bounce back spot at home. Don't forget, there was a couple of very, very weird plays and weird calls that prevented a couple touchdowns from Lamar. He's got to make a statement. Maybe this is the game to do it. Value play, I'll just go right back to my guy, Adonai Mitchell, at 4,600. Mike, your top 3 at each position. We start at quarterback.
Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, and Sam Darnold. I like Sam Darnold. I think that they play a different game here on the road at Atlanta. It won't be quite as easy as it was against Minnesota at home. Jordan Love in the cold, yes, but I think the Bears defense is going to be extremely vulnerable in this spot. I think they're going to have success on the ground with Jacobs, and I think it's going to open up some of those big play action shots. I think he could have a 3-touchdown game again here. in this particular spot. So give me Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, again, another bounce back opportunity indoors against Arizona, divisional opponent, and then Sam Darnold at only 5,500.
Yeah, that Sam Darnold price makes JSN a lot more palatable. So I totally get that. Running back, top three.
Josh Jacobs, Quinshon Judkins, and James Cook. We've talked about James Cook pretty much at length throughout the show. I love the opportunity for him, not only on the ground, but in the passing game. Jacobs, I think, is too cheap. I think when you kind of spelled it out too, when we talked about some of those combo lines being a little closer to the top tier running backs, I think it makes sense against Chicago. I think that defense is going to be a little vulnerable. It's also classic Lambeau Field in December. It's going to be extremely cold. You're going to see him keep the football on the ground. And Josh Jacobs, a guy that's not afraid to take hits, he's going to go out there. It's a lot harder to tackle in those conditions. So give me Jacobs, and then Judkins. Don't be scared off. Like, I think the field will be scared off by a 33-point total on this slate. I think he's going to touch the football 25 times in this game between the ground and the passing attack. So give me Judkins here, 6,400.
All right, we're going to go to our top three wide receivers. And I do want to remind everybody that's watching us on YouTube and any other platform, including a lot that are watching us on Twitter, we're doing this show live now. This is our Fantasy Football Today DFS show. Every Thursday at 11 o'clock, we'll be covering the main slate and doing all these top three at each position and cheat sheet exercises as well. Top three wide receivers, Mike McClure.
Starting at the top, it's Puka Nacua, JSN. Yes, they're expensive. I'm planning to play them more, though. You talk about the top running backs. Like, I'm not playing much Achane. I'm not playing Jonathan Taylor, things like that. So I'm spending at receiver. It's Nacua and JSN. Big bounce back performances really on both sides, both playing indoors in controlled environments. And then Christian Watson, I think, is too cheap when everyone else is healthy. He gets those opportunities deep down the field. He had a decent day on Thanksgiving, dropped 3 or 4 passes, could have had, 8 to 10 catches, 150 yards and a score in that game pretty easily. I think Watson gets his opportunities downfield here. The only other one I would swap in or have a fourth spot for would be Michael Wilson for Arizona. If Marvin Harrison's out, he will firmly be right up there.
Okay, we'll go to top three tight ends. You have some value options here.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm jamming in some of those big names at receiver, you've got to pay down a little bit. AJ Barner, 3,200 would be clearly being stacked with Sam Darnold. Colston Loveland at 3,200 would very clearly be playable in any lineup, just like Barner. But where I would mostly be using would be as a bring back in the Jordan Love lineups. And then Brenton Strange at 3,900. I think he's just slightly too cheap for some of the upside he represents. I think that he is a big weapon in the red zone, particularly for that Jags team. So Strange, Barner, and Loveland.
All right. We have top three at each position done. So the only thing we have left to do, Meg, is to talk about this Thursday night football game. Give me your take on how you think this game is going to play out. We've got, what's the spread now? 3 Cowboys getting the points here at Detroit, 54.5 point total. It's going to be a very exciting game. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, doing the Sportsline show with you guys, I know that you like the Cowboys side, and I do too. I like Cowboys +3. I actually think they can win outright as the underdog here. So yeah, I like the Cowboys. I'm hoping it's a high scoring game and we get a high scoring shootout. So that's how I see this game going, is close and high scoring, but Cowboys either come out on top or at least cover.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you like Jamison Williams yards and a CeeDee Lamb touchdown as well, correct?
I do. I like both of them a lot. Really good matchups for both sides of the passing game here. So I hope that lives up to it. And I'll be in Sportsline Discord at 7:30 to game time talking about other props, touchdowns, parlays that I like.
Absolutely love that. Sportsline Discord. If you're a Sportsline member, you get the Sportsline Discord for free, of course. Mike, am I falling for it with the Cowboys +3? I mean, Detroit just looks a little too banged up to hang with a team that's playing very well on both sides of the ball.
It will. So I won't say you're falling for anything. I think the line's pretty close to right. I lean to the Cowboys side. Computer makes it about 2 instead of 3 to the spot where it's like close to autoplay. What I would say is for Detroit to win, I think they're going to have to be nearly perfect offensively, because I'm pretty confident Dallas is scoring in this game. It's kind of a desperation spot too. It's more desperation on the Dallas side, but it's big for for Detroit because they don't want to in the NFC lose this tiebreaker to Dallas in the head-to-head. And they have a difficult game next week as well against the Rams. So currently the Lions are 60% to miss the playoffs right now. They are minus 150 to miss the playoffs currently in head of this game. So this one is probably one that can decide it on both sides. Very clearly decides it on the Dallas side. They essentially have to win out. They can lose one game, but it can't be this one. So must win on the Dallas side.
And I know you haven't run your simulations for Showdown, but is there a name that you just know you're going to play, or maybe a sneaky name, low end name that you know you're going to play?
I mean, I'm going to try to get as much of Jamison Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Jahmyr Gibbs in the same lineup as I can. It's doable because there's free square on the slate in terms of Showdown being Tom Kennedy with St. Brown very likely out. He's too cheap at 2K. He's going to be a pretty popular play, but you can jam him in. There's ways to get there, but yeah, as much exposure as I could possibly get to CeeDee Lamb, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and George Pickens.
Yeah, Tom Kennedy certainly with what was the last thing you said?
I would say obvious. You know, I'm not breaking news to anyone that those four players have a ton of upside. So,
but I mean, mentioning Tom Kennedy is important to get those expensive players in. So I think Tom Kennedy's gonna. I was actually considering betting his over prop, which I think right now is 26.5 yards. I was also looking at his receptions, but the over 2.5 was super juiced to like minus 150. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and one more. Hunter Lupke is someone you could definitely jam in. He's only 400, so essentially a $0 player. Someone to potentially throw in. They've used him a little bit, and yeah. So
all right,
Tesla's fine. I see in the chat here he's fine, but he's not free square. I don't think that. I like some unders there on Tesla personally. But.
I mean, so it's funny because he's like, you forgot Tesla. Yikes, dude. Tesla hasn't done anything this year. It's funny. Tesla ran more routes last week than Tom Kennedy, I believe, but Tom Kennedy was actually getting more looks, which is an indictment on Isaac Tesla. That doesn't mean he can't have a big game and he's not going to get over his 36.5 receiving yards, but that guy has not really shown up. And if he was going to, you would have thought it would have been him over Tom Kennedy last week. And that certainly wasn't the case. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
It's mostly price point on him though too. At 4,400, it's a very different price point than 2K or less. Is the real issue for me on a Showdown site.
I love the passion of WSNXP. He says that's flagrantly wrong-headed. I love it.
I do love the comment though. That comment is excellent.
Hey, we're all about the passion. Derek, Wheels Up, WSN, everybody that's in here, Corion, Pogo Picks, which of course is Jason Pogos. You know some of these people from the early edge. JDS, we really appreciate everybody being in here. And hopefully you're here every single Thursday at 11 o'clock. We enjoy having you in here with all that passion, maybe with some questions or maybe some comments, plays that you like that maybe we can get some information from you. And also we have our $5 contest, our Fantasy Football Today DFS contest. It's going to be in the YouTube description. It's going to be in the podcast description. We get 200 people in that contest. The top 15 get paid out. And again, it's only $5. It's just a really quick main slate contest that you can get involved in. And then I'll shout out the top 5 every single week. And maybe you all can get some bragging rights over us. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it on a Thursday on Fantasy Football Today DFS. We'll see you next Thursday. Until then, have some green screens and have a great day and weekend. On behalf of Mike, Matt, and Meg, have a great weekend, everybody.